New this morning, Democrats are turning up the volume on concerns about Attorney General Bill Barr. Senator Kamala Harris, her exchange with Barr during his Senate Judiciary Committee testimony is prompting a new avenue of investigation. Barr sidestepped her question about whether the president or anyone at the White House asked or suggested he open an investigation of anyone. And in a new interview with my colleague Rachel Maddow, Senator Harris spoke about how she's following up.
Do you believe that it's possible that he has been getting direction from the White House or from the president about opening investigations into the president's perceived enemies? Do you think that is what's happening?
Based on his non-response, I am now suspicious. And which is why I've asked the Office of the Inspector General to actually investigate this, because, of course, the Attorney General is supposed to act on behalf of the people and not act as the president's henchman.
Joining me now is Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright, former senior advisor to Hillary Clinton's campaign, and also Boston Herald radio host Adriana Cohen, also a nationally syndicated columnist. Welcome to both of you. As we get started with you, Adriana, does Senator Harris have a valid concern here? Is it a problem if AG Barr isn't acting independently from the White House?
Not at all. First of all, Attorney General Bill Barr is a consummate professional. He's had a sterling reputation that he's earned over the past, several decades in various top positions in the Department of Justice. And, he's not acting as a partisan personal attorney of President Trump. Those are just smears from Democrats to discredit him because they're afraid that they're going to be exposed as part of a conspiracy to take down President Trump and to delegitimize his, election. And so they're running scared. So they're applying the strategy. The best defense is the best offense. And so they're trying to shoot the messenger. That's what's going on.
Antoine, smears right there, or clearly does Senator Harris have a valid concern?
It's pretty clear that my dear friend this morning has been drinking the Kool-Aid versus the coffee this morning. Look, we all know if that was Barack Hussein Obama's Attorney General sitting before a Republican-controlled U.S. Senate committee, they would have been crafting the articles of impeachment as he was sitting there. When she talked about running, it is evidently clear that Trump's AG would not even go to the House Democrats' hearing. In something that I think is unprecedented, and we all know, again, if that was Barack Hussein Obama's first African-American Attorney General or the first African-American female Attorney General in Loretta Lynch, we would have been, the right-wingers would have been jumping off the cliff. They would have been going crazy about this. And so what we do know about this administration and this president and those he surrounds himself with, one, they pledge their allegiance to him. Two, we continue to see the cups of corruption overflow, and at some point conservatives and Republicans who are thinking about life after Trump are going to have to come to grips with, we can't continue down this dangerous path.
All right, let's turn now to 2020 and the candidates there that actually took turns grilling Barr during Wednesday's hearing. Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, we heard from them. Sticking with you, Antoine, how much of their performances were about posturing here, and how important are these performances to their presidential bids?
Well, what I took from the hearing was that, one, Democrats have a number of talented individuals throughout our party, and we saw that on display in this hearing. The second thing I took from this is that we all should have learned from this hearing the severe, deep consequences of elections, because imagine if we had a Democratic-controlled Senate, a Democratic-controlled committee heading that hearing head on, we would have seen a tremendously different result. The third thing is, I think we all see how important it is for us to have people to be able to block and tackle in every which way we can, and everyone has a role to play. Yeah. And so these next set of elections in 2020 will perhaps be the most transformational in my political lifetime.
Well, let's talk about these contenders there for 2020. Adriana, specifically when it comes to this new national CNN SSRS poll that would look at who would come out ahead if the presidential election were held right now. Here are the numbers there on your screen. Beto O'Rourke with the largest lead in a matchup against President Trump with 10%. Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders also come out ahead of President Trump with leads outside of the margin of error. I know everybody says, yeah, it's early. But what do you make of this? Adriana?
Well, I think that President Trump's leadership, ushering in an extremely strong economy and historically low unemployment for all Americans, not to mention, so many of his other achievements are going to put him over the top in 2020. Absolutely, because it's about the economy, and every day mainstream voters care about the kitchen table issues, more money in their pockets,
very quickly,
lower
Adriana,
taxes.
you say all of that, but then the president, there's also a question of the president why he's not focusing on that and having that be the narrative, and what we're hearing more and more of.
That should be the narrative. I think that it's a good political strategy always for a politician to, showcase their strengths.
So is it
and
a missed opportunity for the president? Is it a missed opportunity for the president if he's not?
Well, I think that he's letting the results speak for themselves. The jobs numbers just came out. They're stellar. Same with, wages are up. And so Americans know that. They feel more money. They see more money in their pockets. They see more job opportunities than they had from the prior administration. So he knows voters are feeling the benefits of his leadership with a strong economy.
Well, let me respond to a couple of things. Number one, while this economy is roaring for some, it's screaming for others. There are people in this country who will forget about making ends meet. They're putting two ends together hoping they will meet. We have a segment of people in this country called the working poor. That means they're working 2 and 3 jobs and still find themselves in poverty. So yes, this economy is doing well for some, the typical people at the top, but it's not doing well for others. And for you to sit here and say that
the facts don't reflect that, Antoine. Wages are up for low-income workers.
No, they do reflect that, and that's why, again, the facts speak for themselves. When you have a segment of population in this in this country called the working poor. The second thing, why you all want to do toe touchers and victory laps about the economy, and we had the same argument in the 2018 midterms. Look, the number one issue on the minds of voters to this point is health care. And so while we can debate about the economy, yes, it's doing well, and there's segments who are doing well, what's on the hearts and minds of voters in this country is health care. And you all have a terrible record on health care. Repeal and replace was what you ran on for 8 years. While President Obama was in office, you could not get it done. Now you've tried to get it done under this administration, and it's backfired tremendously. Right. So we can lay out these arguments all we want, and I look forward to having a real debate about this in 2020.
Well, I'm sure we have a lot of time for that another time, but right now I want to bring things back around, Adriana, especially when it comes to the contenders out there and other numbers that are making headlines this week when it comes to the polls. This one, sizing up the Democratic field, you have Joe Biden in first with 38%, Elizabeth Warren leaping into second place with 12%. So, Adriana, you spoke with the president who called into your radio show this week, and you asked him about whether he's worried about Joe Biden or any of these other Democratic candidates. Let's take a listen really quickly, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, he's a sleepy man, but I just don't know. I mean, who knows really who can do the best? In many ways, I like him. He's not as smart as Bernie, and he's not as quick, but he's got different views a little bit, I guess.
We have those numbers that we showed you. Is the president trying to downplay the threats that these candidates could pose to his campaign?
No, I don't think he's worried at all. I mean, Joe Biden has run twice. He's failed running for president twice. I mean, what kind of threat is that? I mean, he had a drop out of the race. He barely got 1%. So, no, he's not a threat. And with respect to Elizabeth Warren, I mean, she's not even she's polling low in her own state here in Massachusetts. I mean, she should be, if she's a viable contender for president, she should be in first place here in Massachusetts in polling, and she's not. And
very
so
quickly,
she has seen a little bit of
I know you chuckled.
I chuckle because
she's seen an uptick, but she's got work to do.
I chuckle because it's pretty clear that Donald Trump and the entire Republican Party are scared pissless about the idea of Joe Biden being the 2020 nominee. And it's pretty evident because the attacks have ramped up on him. And here we are not even close to deciding who our nominee is.
We got to leave it at that because we are out of time. Wish we had more for both of you. I appreciate your time, Antoine Seawright and also Adriana Cohen. Thank you so much for a nice, fun, lively conversation with some words that I don't normally say around here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Anticipation in